Man, I tell you what, jobs, they suck. Everybody regrets the day before and the day after when they have to go to work throughout the week. Of course, like most people on the internet and in the world, I also have worked a handful of my jobs. I'm not that old of a guy though, and I've only had a couple of experiences in different places. But there's two major hierarchies of job types that I have experienced, and by far the worst one was warehouses. I mean this literally when I say that when you work in a warehouse, it is like it's like paid slavery. It's fucking terrible. It is ass. It's some of the worst shit I would never wish upon my worst enemy. Especially considering on what season, like what time of the year you work at, because that can vary on how painful your experience is. I have seen people who work in warehouses who have aged by 15 plus years and would rather put their testicles in a vice grip. So why do I think warehouse work is so bad? Well, I've only ever worked in one warehouse, thank God. I've only ever worked in one warehouse. And it was for Walmart. It was Walmart Distribution Center. I was a order filler. I worked from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning, Fridays through Sundays. And I worked 12-hour shifts. We had 3 breaks in total. 2 were 15s, and lunch was 30 minutes. The only site we had nearby, besides the stuff that you can buy within the facility, was a gas station. It was open 24 hours, thank God. They served hot food, so that was nice because Walmart sure shit didn't. Yeah, you would think, with working for Walmart, I deceive a lot of people when I say, hey, I've worked for Walmart, and they immediately think, oh, you worked in the store? No. I worked in a shitty facility. So why do I think warehouse jobs are so bad? Well, let's take this into consideration. Let's say you work during the summer. Well, most of these warehouses, especially most warehouses here in America, they don't have central heat and air. Actually, they have central heat, don't have central air. So what does that mean? The only thing that's going to cool your ass down is a big ass facility fan, and depending on your distance from that sumbitch, you won't even feel it. So imagine working in a facility, especially in the dead afternoon, because by the time 5 p.m. comes around, it's still hot as hell outside. So you report to your job site already sweating. They have you doing these dumb as fuck stretches. I understand why they're there. We'll get into that. But you're doing all this physical labor. I mean, slinging heavy ass crates on the back of shit or putting shit into shit. And it is hot as hell. I mean, I have heard stories of people who have fucking had heat strokes. It's that bad. And this is coming from a guy who worked in a fast food restaurant for an entire summer without air conditioning either. So I know what it's like to be in a hot atmosphere, especially a kitchen without air. But a warehouse, God forbid. Oh, it's even fucking worse. So heating and cooling issues are a problem. If it's during the winter, then you're freezing your ass off, and if it's during the summer, you're sweating your ass off. So that's already bad, right? Then you get to the actual labor, what you do. Now, don't get me wrong, it really depends on where you work. Okay, so for example, let's take, for example, me. I got it from what I knew, so don't quote me on this, but from my knowledge, I got the highest base pay that a person could possibly make. But because of that, I was one of the star children. I was one of the chosen ones in the facility, and I had a very, very important job, and that was order filling. So what is an order filler? Well, an order filler, basically what they do is that they zoom in and out to the facility. By the way, this facility was massive. You had A, B, C, and you had docks A, B, C, and D. All doors with trucks lined up. And you would report to either dock that your headset and your trip would tell you to go. And my job as an order filler was to zoom in and out the facility on this thing called a center rider. What the center rider was is that it was a forklift that has 2 spikes on the back of it, and you press the button on the middle of the console and it rises up and down. Very simple stuff. Surprisingly, you have to be licensed to drive that sumbitch. I know, right? Crazy. So then you zoom in and out the facility and you think, okay, well, this is pretty easy. So what do? You just back that bitch up into pallets like a regular forklift, and you lift them bitches up and you take them to the docks. No. See, that's what the actual forklift drivers do. That's what their job is. They just sit there and like I'm telling you. Okay, so I don't remember any people's names, but I'm just going to describe to you what I saw. There was this big, I'm talking big fucking dude. Okay, he was fat. I'm talking whoa, like fat as hell. He would operate a forklift, and that fucker could do it like nobody else, man. He was the goat at getting pallets off the top shelves, which by the way, these shelves were massive. So, anyways, the point that I'm trying to get to is that I wasn't a forklift driver. I was a halfway forklift driver where I still had to grab pallets and stuff from the back off of pallets and sling them on the back of my center rider. So you had to go grab a metal cart, drag that son of a bitch over the back of the forks, and then you go and do your trip. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to do the trips. So the trip can be divided up into many sections. You could be in, let's say, Dock D. I think I remember it was Dock D. Dock D had like school equipment, like basic shit. Sure, those boxes are easy to stack. You can stack them bitches up real nice and neat on the back of your console. Now remember, you have to stack them right. You have to play like a game of Jenga. If you don't stack it right, it will fall. I might put up a picture on the screen of what exactly like the actual work looked like because I did take photos, but So you're slinging these smaller crates on the back of your thing all night. It's lonely as fuck. You can't have earbuds. You're in this massive ass warehouse and all you hear is the ambient noise. You have nobody to talk to. It's just you alone in your thoughts and you're talking to the AI on your headset. Yeah, by the way, you had an AI on your headset. And you had to talk with this bitch, okay? And she didn't want to listen to anything you were saying at the time. You would say, I'm at slot ABC123, give some more for me. And then she'll say pick 20 crates, and you'd have to pick 20 crates. And they actually got to the point where they were so pretentious with us that we had to count each individual crate. It got that aggravating. I was fucking pissed. I didn't even give a shit at that point. I would just count them in my head and then say the number, and then I would move on. Anyways, the point is that the varying sizes of shit that you could pick and then put on the back of your center rider became extremely difficult when you would go to an aisle that would have fucking microwaves or, God forbid, playground sets. I'll never forget the biggest order I ever did, not from sheer size, but from the weight. I had to pick up 12 fucking playground sets. I don't know if you know how big a large sized playground set is or how heavy that shit is, but picking up 12 of those motherfuckers will wind you out. I'm telling you, it will. It just will. Like, you had to lift for shit properly, otherwise your ass would be on the fucking ground with your back hurting. So it was that. So you already have these varying weights and different size crates, and you're slinging them on the back of the carts. Then you gotta drive that bitch to the dock door. You gotta sling that bitch off of your center rider, and you gotta roll the cart over to the guys at the dock doors. And I felt bad for them because they got it even worse than we did. Even though they had fans next to the back of the trucks, they had to sling the crates in the back of the trucks, which was even hotter there. And I was shocked. I got paid more than them, but I realized why. That's because the order fillers were on time limits. We had to zoom. We had to fucking move. When I tell you that I'm gonna admit it, I couldn't keep up. I fucking couldn't. I couldn't keep up. I was like Sonic, bro, or the opposite. I was slow as shit. I could not keep up for nothing. I had decent numbers, don't get me wrong, but I was nowhere near up to the standard that I was supposed to be at. And then that was when the light bulb went off in my head, and I finally realized how the fuck, like, the insane amount of effort they wanted from us was ridiculous within a 12-hour shift. It was actually fucking crazy. And I thought it was worse for us. It was even worse for the guys that were by the dock doors. They even had it even fucking worse. Yeah, like I said, my experience in a warehouse was fucking ass. I didn't like it. I didn't like being by myself. I'm a very sociable person. I like to interact with people. I love to talk. Obviously, you guys know this. So being left in my thoughts all night really got to me, definitely. And I made decent money. I mean, I made like $25 an hour, and I worked 3 days a week. If I didn't have a second job at the time, it probably wouldn't have been so bad, but I did work two jobs at the time. So I would go to work Wednesdays and Thursdays and Tuesdays, and then I would work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I'd have a full work week. I would only have Mondays off. So it was just driving me crazy reporting to that same facility. And I met a couple cool people, met a couple assholes, but warehouse work just fucking sucks, man. Like, there was no point in which I wasn't mad at the asshats who were driving around the facility on those dumbass golf carts. If you worked in a fucking warehouse, you know what I'm talking about. They would literally drive around in those goddamn golf carts and stare at you or watch you to check up and make sure you're doing things right. It was just so fucking aggravating. Or seeing the fat guys who were riding around in the forklifts and doing their fucking thing, and it's so fucking aggravating because you're like, fuck me, I'm slinging all these heavy ass crates on the back of this shit for what, man? Like, what for? What fucking what, man? It's hot as shit. I don't want to do this. Like, and then oh, finally, one last thing, a part of the whole process. Once you get your shit stacked up, obviously, you have to wrap it with plastic wrap, and you gotta wrap that son bitch with plastic. I mean, you are just spinning that plastic wrap around this massive load, and if that, let me tell you something. I had my load fall 2 times in the same trip. I'm talking a trip that was over 300 cases worth of shit. I'm talking, it was like a mountain, and it fell twice. Like I said, it's the most demotivating thing ever. And then when you get that small break or even your lunch break to go sit in your car, you're really rethinking your life. I mean, you really are. You're really scrolling through Indeed or looking on Google for different job opportunities, man, because you feel trapped. You feel bored. At least I did. Like I said, I can only speak from my perspective, but I felt trapped. I felt bored. I felt aggravated. I felt I could be doing way more. I could be working smarter, not harder. Working smarter, not hotter and harder. You know, bitch, like, seriously. It was one of the worst experiences I ever had, and I lasted probably about a year or so, and I eventually quit Walmart DC. I would move on to just do other things, but it was definitely an experience. So when I see people have that relatability to working in a warehouse, you know, even though I didn't have much experience, I can definitely feel it. I feel it because I went in there with one of the hardest positions that took a lot of effort and wasn't easy. If I probably would have started in the dock doors, I probably would have been a little better off. But because I had such a privileged position, they expected a lot from me because we supplied the dock doors. If they couldn't, you know, and they had bigger teams than us, you know, one person, like one order filler like me, would end up filling up an entire truck worth of shit, and they'll have 3 or 4 guys on that one fucking door. So I'm filling up one whole semi truck filled with shit just from my effort, from me bringing my trips there within one night. I mean, over 2,000 crates easily in one night. And these guys have like 3 or 4 people on the same door. So they're moving all the crates that I just moved like that, man. They're just fucking, I mean, they're just going, you know what I mean? We literally had to come an hour early before them just so they can have enough time to keep up with the other order fillers. And I was like, fuck me. I was like, shit. Like, I had to move, man. It was insane. Like, it never stopped. It never fucking stopped. And I was like, I would rather go back to fucking fast food. I mean, at the time, I was a manager at a fast food restaurant. And I was like, fuck this. I'd rather go back there. Shit, you know what I mean? At least I get to tell people what to do. You know what I mean? So, it was just bad, man. Like I said, the heat will get to you. The loneliness will get to you. And you just realize, man, fuck this shit, man. You realize this is just fucking paid slavery, bro. This is the worst. And ever since then, I've always told people I do not recommend working in warehouses to nobody. That's the kind of jobs we need robots to be doing, not us, bro. Fuck that shit, man. Fuck that. No. The only other job I've ever heard that was worse than working in a warehouse was like working in a field or working outside like all day, depending. Again, it's all weather dependent, but you know, I can't speak for other jobs. Unfortunately, I can only speak for like basically just restaurants and warehouses. So, but from my perspective, at least, you know, from my humble opinion, warehouses suck balls. I don't look down upon nobody who works in a warehouse. You guys are literally the backbones of America. You know, they talk about roofers and carpenters and construction workers and police officers and firefighters. No, fuck that shit. Warehouse workers, buddy. Warehouse workers are the backbones of America, man. I'm fucking telling you, man, because warehouses fucking suck, dude. They're so ass. But yeah, that's my little story, a little rant for today. I fucking hate warehouse jobs. I think I've made that very clear, and Walmart can eat my dick sideways. So, yeah. biggest retail store franchise in the world, and yet they couldn't afford to have air conditioners in the fucking bathrooms. So, you know, do that with what you will. So, anyways, though, that's about it. See ya.